What's up, everybody? It's Glenn and Big Jack back with another episode of the Fade Podcast. Today we're talking AFC West, a little AFC West divisional preview for y'all. Big Jack, it's a pleasure to have you back after talking about the two South divisions last week. You ready to chop it up about the two West divisions this week?
Absolutely, man. Nothing better than talking some football. Season's right around the corner. 31 days till Bears dive on in. That's what's really on my radar. But yeah, love talking about it all. Nothing better than the NFL, man.
Right on. I can't wait myself, man. These preseason games are such a tease. But, anyways, let's get right into it with the AFC West. We'll start with the Denver Broncos. Denver Broncos, some of their roster turnover this year. Well, we can't talk about their roster before talking about their coaching changes. A complete overhaul at the with the coaching staff, with no move bigger than the hiring of Sean Payton as the new head coach of the Denver Broncos. They also made some splashes in free agency, signing Mike McGlinchey and Ben Powers, two pretty solid offensive linemen to help that struggling offensive line from last year. Um, Really, the only piece of note, in my opinion, that they lost was Draymond Jones, who's an interior defensive lineman. They lost him to Seattle. And then in the draft, they didn't have a first round pick, but they ended up picking up a nice receiver and linebacker and a couple pieces in the secondary in the draft. All guys that I was looking at with Marvin Mims, Drew Sanders, Riley Moss, and J.L. Skinner. Four guys that could potentially contribute as early as this year. Big Jack, how do you feel about the Broncos overall, and maybe if you got the over unders and their odds to win the division, do you have any interest in those bets?
Yeah, just first going off what you were saying about no first round pick, it just instantly throws that trigger reminder in about the fact that they traded him all away for Russ. Clearly, have not gotten the return from his individual play that they're hoping for. But I do think Sean Payton might make quite a significant difference in that department. I think he'll be a totally. I shouldn't say different. I think he'll be the Russ Wilson that we all have come to know, that who's played a probably a Hall of Fame career to this
Yeah.
point. Before last season, obviously his reputation took a hit, but he's a hell of a football player, and I'd be more surprised if he had another down year than if he had a bounce back year. Mike McGlinchey, another guy that was hot on the Bears' radar. A lot of rumors that I feel like I remember there being a rumor that they signed him, and then they obviously didn't. He went to Denver. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they go. The only other thing I know about them as far as losses is, forgive me, I'm not going to be able to pull the name right now, but it's that wide receiver who was out last year as well in camp. Like the first week, he tore something in his
Oh,
Achilles.
Tim Patrick.
Yeah, there you go. So that's I think he's probably their number three, but still a blow one way or another. I would imagine that Sutton and Judy are still sort of their top two dogs, but I think they were hoping for some good things from Tim Patrick. But yeah, their odds to win the division, I think they're plus 600. I don't, yeah, I guess you could. Plus 600 is plus 600. I guess there's always value at that kind of odds in a sense, but I don't see any shot they win the division. This is probably probably the best division in football, because I do think the top two teams are better than anyone else's top two teams. But it's going to be a gauntlet going through that division, and I don't see any way that the Broncos are the one who comes out on top. Their over under for wins is 9.5, or excuse me, 8.5, at minus 115. That's exactly where it opened, so it hasn't really moved a lot. I would imagine they're taking a good amount of wagers on both sides of that ticket. Um, Part of me kind of likes the under 8.5, but I don't know if I'm in any position to be, putting anything up against Sean Payton and Russ Wilson combination. And I just, 8 wins in the NFL is under 500 these days, so they'd have to go 8 and 9. I don't know if they're under 500. I'm not sure. what this team will look like exactly, I'm not very high on them to be, you know, stellar, but I could see them, making this potential wild card push if the things kind of all fall the right way in their first season out there.
Yeah, I mean, I think their offense will be solid. I'm curious to see how good their defense will be. When it comes to Sean Payton, through the course of his career, his regular season win percentage is 63%. If you were to put that over a 17 game season, you're looking at 10.7 wins on average. So with that logic, I probably lean towards the over. Thinking they can get to 9 or 10. Um, I don't. I wouldn't touch the plus 600 to win the division. I just wouldn't. I think the Chiefs are too good. It's their division to lose. But I would consider laying the over on the win total there.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. Like I said, I kind of lean under just because I feel like I don't trust their defense to be very good, and their offense was just so atrocious last year. It's hard to completely ignore, even though I got to imagine it's going to be unidentifiable this year.
Right on, right on. Also, Sean Payton's the second favorite to win Coach of the Year at plus 1,200. The Coach of the Year odds. There's no like huge crazy favorite like plus 300 or something like that. He's the second favorite at plus 1,200. I wouldn't hate laying a little bit on there, especially I would probably lay that before winning the division because I think if they win the division, there's a strong chance that he wins Coach of the Year. So I'd probably take that at plus 1,200 before the division. But I don't know if I'm laying that bet either.
Yeah, that's an
Thoughts on that?
interesting one. They got to just be. I would imagine that's just sort of them making him out to be like, you know, he has the potential to be like a big swing for a team that was horrendous last year. Now a new coach comes in and everything kind of gets rolling in the right direction. But yeah, that's an interesting one to me. Plus 1,200 for Sean Payton being a second favorite as coach of the year. I don't know about all that.
All right, on to the Chargers. In free agency, they didn't do a whole lot. But what I do like what they did, I like their changes at coordinator, especially Kellen Moore coming over from the Cowboys. I think he's one of the bright young minds of all of football. I like his opportunity to take Justin Herbert under his wing and really get the most out of him, even though he's already a pretty darn good quarterback in his own right. And I do, in retrospect, like some of the things they did in the draft with adding Quentin Johnson as another big body receiver. Um, and then a couple guys on defense that I think could make an early difference. Now they did.
Wait a minute. You can't be saying you like adding Quentin Johnson all of a sudden.
I'm saying in retrospect, I was the biggest Quentin Johnson hater. He's balling out at camp, though. He's balling out at camp. I might be eating my words. Plus, you put him on a team with a good quarterback and weapons all around him. Maybe he gets a lot of one-on-ones and he's just a big-ass dude. I don't know. We'll see. I I did like him for the Bears. I'll just put it at that. But
Yeah.
one thing I don't like about their offseason roster is they lost like 4 or 5 role players on defense. And sometimes you sleep on the role players. So that gives me a little bit of cause for concern. But I just think Herbert's potentially going to take that next step that, everybody's kind of thirsty for him to take and starts pushing that MVP race in that category. He's the 4th favorite at plus 900. I could see him having an MVP caliber season, but Big Jack, what are your thoughts on the Chargers as a team? And where's their win total, odds to win the division? What are your thoughts?
I'll start with the most important thing. I love Justin Herbert as well. I'd probably put him as my number 3 guy in the NFL, just behind Mahomes and Burrow. Maybe he doesn't. Not maybe. He probably doesn't deserve to quite be there as of yet, especially considering he just blew a 4-touchdown lead in the playoffs. But I don't know, man. Dude's a freak. I think he's a hell of a football player. I love watching him play. My bigger issue with the Chargers is just I feel like the the old saying of the definition of insanity is kind of just doing the same thing and expecting a different result. Um, it's just the same story every year with them. They come in with a decent amount of hype, got a good quarterback, just like all those years with Phillip Rivers. Um, got good receivers, and then they always just become injury riddled. Can't get it done. Can't get it across the line. Um, so it's hard for me to believe in them. They're plus 325 to win the division. I hate betting on a heavy favorite like the Chiefs. So I guess if you were like, you got to ride someone in this division, I'd probably take it. Maybe they stay healthy. Maybe the Chiefs run into some problems and the Chargers are able to sneak away with that division. I don't hate the plus 325 juice. I think it's pretty solid value for that team that has the potential to be as good as I think they can be. Um, I just don't like that they kept their head coach. I think they probably should have bounced him. I think you bring up a good point about Kellen Moore coming to town. But if you talk to Cowboys fans, they might tell you something different. So that's, we'll see how that all plays out. But, you have a guy like Justin Herbert. I think you're always going to have a really good shot at winning a lot of football games. Is there any update on the Austin Eckler situation, or he just kind of disgruntled, but he's still like in camp and everything? He's all good.
Yeah, I think it's. I guess I shouldn't speak without knowing for sure, but
Yeah.
I haven't heard like any major holdouts or anything. I think he's just disgruntled and wants to get paid, but understands
Right.
that he's got no leverage. I don't know.
Yeah. No, fair enough. Yeah, their over under for wins is 9.5. It's only, I mean, it's juiced a little to the over. It opened at minus 115. It's still 9.5, but it's all the way up to closer to like minus 130 territory now. Um, you know, I guess, I've said it a couple times in the other divisions we've gone over. I'm not a futures guy, so I don't, there hasn't been an official like bet I've even thrown out there yet that I would advise doing because there's nothing that I'm on right now. But I would say the Chargers. I mean, I guess I would take the over if I had to, just because I believe in Justin Herbert that much.
Yeah, I'm probably steering clear of those bets, but if I had to, same boat. I'd bet the over for sure. Um, all right,
Justin Herbert
go ahead.
plus 900 is interesting MVP. When we get to a little later on, and what some of these other videos we'll eventually be doing, I'll probably give out one of my plays that I do like is the guy that I'll be on, but that one's appealing.
For sure, for sure. All right, on to the Chiefs, the big dog in the division, defending Super Bowl champs. They had some key losses this offseason at offensive tackle, safety, edge rusher, and wide receiver. And what did they do in the offseason? They signed multiple offensive tackles, multiple edge rushers, a safety, and some wide receivers. So, I mean, they honestly arguably got better at all of them. They got worse at wide receiver, but they got better at the other three, in my opinion, or just as good. The Chiefs, they reload. And that being said, with the probably slight fall off in receiver with losing Juju and McCole Hardman, I think they're hoping that Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore and Rasheed Rice end up being a decent
But
trio at wide receiver.
not to cut off your train of thought, I'll let you keep going in a second. But dude, just it's Mahomes.
Yeah,
Think about the guys that Brady played with over the course of the years. I mean, he didn't the one guy was Randy Moss. They didn't even win a Super Bowl. They had the undefeated team that had that fluky game against the Giants, unfortunately. But dude, he was there was Chris Hogan was a lacrosse player who couldn't do anything, and Brady made him look like a borderline Pro Bowl type guy. It's the quarterback makes it happen. If you have a guy who's that special, the receivers mean that much less. Juju was doo doo in Pittsburgh before he went down there. Seriously, he Antonio Brown left his chaos, and then Juju was nobody, and then all of a sudden he goes to Kansas City, has a resurgence because you got a superstar like Mahomes who just can make it happen.
yeah. I mean, I'm with you 100%. Same train of thought. It's really Mahomes, it's Reed, and it's Travis Kelsey. And you got those three guys, the offense can be just fine. And
Yep.
the one thing that could worry you with those three guys is if they have absolutely no protection. They did just fine at replacing what they lost with the protection, so they'll be just fine.
Yeah.
I gotta assume, Jack, they're the big favorite to win the division, as you said. What are the lines at? And even though they're going to be a big favorite, if I had to bet on somebody in this division, it would probably just be them. And that's it's probably what it would
Yeah.
be.
Yeah, it's minus 182, so it's a I look at Rivers when I look at those odds.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes Rivers throws out bizarre numbers, which is why it's minus 182 instead of minus 185 or something. But it's honestly not terrible if if you're that confident in the Chiefs laying 200 to win 100. That's it's not taxing that heavy. The over/under total for wins is 11.5. That's where it opened. It was minus 110 when it opened. It's all the way up to minus 130 now, so it's been bet up, a little bit as far as the juice goes. But honestly, I think a lot of these the AFC West division totals are slightly low because I don't know off the top of my head how tough their schedule is, but they obviously play each other twice each. A lot of good quarterbacks in that division. Regardless of what you think of the Broncos, Russell Wilson's a good quarterback. Mahomes is obviously the best quarterback, and then Herbert, like we just said, is one of the best. And then the Raiders got Jimmy G now, who's serviceable. All he does is win. That's what they like to say. So it's going to be a tough division, and I know just because I've looked at the East division, the AFC and the NFC East, I know that the AFC East has gauntleted of division the schedule this year. And they play that one of the divisions they play is the AFC West. So the AFC West, AFC East schedule combination is pretty difficult. You're going to have to play everyone in your division. Then you're going to have to play the Jets with Rodgers and that defense now. You're going to have to play the Bills, who are going to be hungry, looking for a better finish to their season. A Miami team who people are kind of 50-50 on, but should be pretty good. And a Patriots team who, yeah, maybe they're not very good or not very highly thought of, but that defense is legit. If they're not going to move the ball, they're not going to win games, but they're going to be something to deal with. So I think that's kind of why these division totals. I look at 11.5 and I'm like, overs one is super easy play, but I don't know. I don't see the Chiefs not going at least 12-5.
Yeah, me neither. I mean, you got to think they're going to be the favorite in 17 of their 17 games, probably. They're just so good. They just are.
Yeah.
And I don't see any other bet in this division other than the Chiefs to win the division. It's the only bet I see.
It almost just makes it feel to me like it's sort of like a sucker bet.
Yeah.
Like that 11.5 only minus 130. They're going to lose more than 5 games. I don't know. I feel like I might lean towards the under in the juice just because it doesn't make sense.
That's one way to think about it, Big Jack. You are one with the books, but
Shout out Hannaford on the East Coast. It's like the East Coast Jewels,
Okay.
And they got these tall boy high noons.
Oh, hell yeah.
Pretty hip, man. Pretty hip.
Love to see it. All right, then lastly to the worst team, at least on paper in the division, the Las Vegas Raiders. The best thing they did this offseason, other than the Garoppolo thing, is probably keeping Josh Jacobs, one of the better running backs in all of football. They lost a couple names, nobody big. They added a couple names,
Dude,
nobody big.
Isn't Josh Jacobs like demanding a trade though?
That would be tough.
I heard some report. I literally heard it today because some guy wrote an article and he was like, giving odds on where Josh Jacobs could land, and the Bears were listed as like the 4th best option. And I remember being like, well, obviously he's not coming to the Bears, but they just list him because the Bears have money.
Right.
So like, the Bears have so much cap space they could sign him. But it's like, Ryan Poles actually had one of his best comments the other day, like a week or so ago, when he was like, yeah, we don't really value the running back position. I was like, God, my man.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess that could be true. Jacobs could be going elsewhere, but as of right now, we're just going to assume he's on the Raiders, playing in some capacity. Which, if he is, a guy I actually like is a sneaky under the radar rookie of the year potential offensive rookie of the year type deal is Michael Mayer, just because he could be a little safety blanket for Garoppolo. But we'll see. We'll see. I mean, I could see him putting up some decent numbers. He's got to be somewhat pro ready, but they got Tyree Wilson in the draft. I don't know how much he's going to really make a difference year one in that defense. I just see them as probably the worst team in the division. They're not going to be like terrible, but just like one of those teams that just doesn't do anything for you. What's your thoughts, Jack?
Yeah, first, just to kind of touch, I know you're sort of kidding tongue in cheek about Michael Mayer, but like if the Bears had been decent last year and they had that like 15th to 25th overall type pick, I probably would have been fine with them taking him with their first pick. I was sort of high on him, just because I like the two tight end system. Maybe a little awkward to bring up, but you think of like how incredible Gronk and Aaron Hernandez were those couple years before all the off the field stuff kind of, put a wrench in that, to say the least. But with a guy like Fields, you love having that mobile quarterback with a tight end who can kind of keep plays alive, and you just find him. But yeah, so I honestly don't think that's crazy. Jimmy Garoppolo had a ton of success with George Kittle in San Francisco. And I do think Jimmy Garoppolo is not as bad as a lot of people think he is. My thing with the Raiders is that I just think Josh McDaniels is a bad coach. That team lost a lot of games last year that they very well should have won. I think they blew like multiple 17-point leads off the top of my head. I feel like I remember us talking about that on some of our picks last year. But I just think he's a bad coach. He was obviously he didn't do a good job with his first, when he was first coach in Denver, his first opportunity, and now he's got this one. I think he, deserved it. He went to New England, had a ton of success, kind of grinded it out for, over a decade, it seems like, when he went back. And, I understand why he got another chance, but I just don't think he's a great head coach. And I think that hurts him in a brutally tough division. Their over-under for wins is 6.5, and it's plus money. It's plus 110. It opened at 7.5, plus 110 as well. So it's dropped the whole game, and it's still juiced to the under. I don't know. That seems like a low number, but
yeah, I agree.
Brutal schedule, and I just don't believe in Josh McDaniels as a head coach. So I'm not touching the under, but if I had to take a side, it probably would be the under. As far as them to win the division, it's a big number. I think it's like plus 1,500, something like that. And that's just, you might as well give your money to the guy in the corner.
I feel you, Jack. All right, well, Mahomes first in MVP odds at plus 600. Herbert fourth at 900. And then Sean Payton second in Coach of the Year. No notable Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year odds situations. My favorite bet in the whole division is probably the over on the Denver wins. Or I guess maybe the Chiefs wins as well. Those are probably my two favorite. The Denver one's only minus 110-ish, so I'd probably lean that one. But you got a favorite bet in the division you like? Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, yeah, you're fine. I don't know. I think if I was doing anything, I would honestly play that under 11.5. Take a little bit of juice on the Chiefs. That number being 11.5 minus 130 just doesn't make any sense to me. I would take the under on 11.5 for the Chiefs.
For sure. All right, well, that wraps up our AFC West divisional preview. Any last thoughts, Big Jack?
No, it's going to be a hell of a division. It'll be fun to watch. Bears, I know for sure, play at Kansas City fairly early on in the season. So
was supposed to be overseas.
Well, they don't. They teams like having the Bears come to
Right.
their stadium. We travel well, and it's a big weekend for those economies. So, I understand them sort of blocking that and saying, "No, we want that one at home." So,
No doubt.
it'll be cool. It always hurts to watch Mahomes, knowing the history of it all, but
We don't talk about
hell,
that no more.
hell of a football player.
Right on, right on. All right, well, thanks all you guys at home for tuning in. If you're new here, like and subscribe. We will be back with an NFC West video preview as well, divisional preview. Till next time, this is your boy Glenn with Big Jack. Peace.
Bears.